Hello everyone. Good evening, or good afternoon as the case may be, possibly good morning, if you like to watch your YouTube videos early in the morning. Today I just wanted to talk just a bit about some of my Warhammer 40,000 models, and just perhaps a little bit about the hobby itself. So, Warhammer 40,000 is a tabletop game that you can play against other players, specifically usually one other player at a time. It's a very in-depth game with quite a few rules, and essentially it is a battle fought between two armies. Now the players field an army of their choosing, which there are a lot of armies to choose from. This specific army that you see in front of you, I am in the middle of painting, and this army is called the Death Guard. So this army specifically sort of they are ancient heroes of mankind who have fallen to the corruption of one of the sort of demon gods. And it's the god of like plague and waste, sickness, misery. So they kind of have a motif of plague and death, sickness, that sort of thing. In fact, some of the more basic foot soldiers are called poxwalkers. They're sort of a zombie type unit. So, this is some of the Death Guard here. I've only recently started collecting Death Guard, and I have only painted these four to completion. Well, I say completion. This fellow right here is not quite complete yet. I've still got some highlighting and some detail work that I will be doing with him, particularly on these horns or bone components here, and these smaller ones here and here, and these here as well. Right. So I do still have some work to do on this particular fellow. That being said, these are painted to a level that is much more detailed than is required in order to play with them in any sort of tournament setting. So technically, they are ready to field. So this particular unit, it's kind of a nasty blob unit, disgusting, pus-filled. And it's called a fetid bloat drone. I suppose it sort of flies around spewing plague from these two weapons. Pretty pretty nasty looking fellow. Now this one is also particularly difficult to paint, if I may say. These are the 3 plague marines. Plague marines. Plague marines that I have finished and completed. Plague marines come in a set of 7, a unit of 7, because 7 is specifically Nurgle's number. So, as you can see, this fellow here, he's using a plasma gun, and you can see the detail that has been painted into him. Tentacles, you know, a rusty weapon. You can see sort of rust and decay running along his armor. This particular gentleman has sort of teeth in his shoulder, and I've tried to include an effect of sort of a glowing, you know, from the plasma here, sort of a glowing effect onto his armor. Up close it looks pretty bad, but from a distance it's not so bad. Also, you can see sort of the green, nasty corrosion and pus from some of the wounds and bullet holes and such. So, it's a pretty neat unit. This one, as you can see, is very similar. It looks very corroded. Tentacles, pus, filth. These are a few of my favorite things. And this one as well. So as I said, I have only painted 4 total models from the Death Guard at this point. I must say, I am no expert by any means. My brother is actually much better than I am. But I enjoy it. I have a good time with it. It is seems to be a rather cost prohibitive hobby, as these models are all very expensive, at least to me. This single model is actually about $50. So it's quite expensive for something smaller than my hand. And honestly, what you are paying for is not necessarily so much the model, although the models are spectacular. The models are extremely detailed, and you can do a lot with them. But you are paying more for the rules of the unit. I guess it goes without saying, the more expensive the model and the unit, the better it is in game. Excuse me, that's my stomach growling a bit. So, if this one is $50, and these for a unit of 7, which I have here, I can put them together. These are not yet painted, I've only primed them. I have to excuse my trash and waste and garbage here. So I've primed the rest, but this is the total unit of the Death Guard Plague Marines that I have so far. And these 7 cost, I believe, $55. So it's a very cost-prohibitive hobby. You really have to commit and know that it's what you're interested in. Now, as I was saying, if these are $55 and this is $50, then imagine this fellow. I think he was, after taxes, state tax, I guess sales tax, about $185 for this model. He is large, about as big as my hand in total, I would say. And he's extremely powerful. After I made this purchase, I built him and put him together. Of course, he is not painted. This is only sort of the very basic layers of paint. So much work left to do. In fact, all I have finished is the pilot here. He has been completed. Unfortunately, you can't see him very well in this lighting. But when I finished this build, I actually used this model in a game against my brother. And this model particularly was devastating. My brother wept. Literally, I believe. You'll have to excuse my mess. I'm actually constructing some built-in bookshelves. In fact, I'm remodeling this entire room. So I'm doing quite a bit of work putting it back together. It's over in my garage. I guess you could say my man cave. Now the paints. Obviously I have a few paints. I've seen much larger collections of paints, but mine's not bad. However, the paints themselves, each pot of paint, you get, let's see, they are, I believe, around $4.50. That's USD each. So, that's quite a collection of paint. Now, I do have more models for the Death Guard. As I said, they are not complete. Some of them are not even primed. This particular model, I believe, is called a Mephitic Blight Hauler. A blight hauler. So he is quite nifty. It's very similar to the fetid bloat drone. He will be fleshy and disgusting underneath, with kind of this bone colored carapace over the top. Excuse me, I don't have fingernails, but I imagine does make some nice tapping sounds, doesn't it? For me, tapping has never really been a major trigger. For me, it's mostly only ever been talking. But those are very nice sounds. See, he has mandibles. This looks sort of like, I suppose, an insect in the front here. Here you see the eye. And as far as I understand, this model and the fetid bloat drone, which I showed you earlier, are ancient war machines that were ultimately possessed by demons and demonic entities, and thus the living components. So this one has a couple of different weapons, and honestly I'm not entirely certain what they are. I do not currently possess or own the rule book for the death guard, and as such I am not entirely certain about the rules of each unit, including their weapons, their movement, how tough they are, what they do in battle, any special abilities. But I hope to get that fairly soon, so that I might play this army. So back here, you can see this sort of fleshy underside with these armored sort of bone carapaces on top. It seems to run on tracks like a tank. So that is the Mythic Blight Hauler. Next, I think is probably the largest model that I have. Oh yes, for the Death Guard in particular. Oh, you have to excuse me, I'm in my Deadpool pajamas. Now this particular model, it's called a Plague Burst Crawler. It's a very large sort of mortar cannon. Right on top. This one has not been primed or colored in any way. I have only constructed and built the model. It was built about a month ago, I suppose, as it's now mid-February, and I got this as a Christmas present. So once again, I'm not entirely certain about the rules of this model. I'm not entirely certain what it does in-game. But I really like the motif, sort of the, the pockmarked, kind of cratered, wasted exterior. A lot of corrosion on this, I imagine. It will be mostly bone-colored with sort of a rusty corrosion, much like the Plague Marines that we looked at earlier. The skull motifs. It's very neat. It's not my favorite model. It's rather plain, but it's very powerful in-game. And I look forward to terrorizing my brother with this particular model. Put that aside. Who do I have next? So I have about 20 more of the poxwalkers here. This is, I believe, 12. I have 20 more. But I won't go into those because you see what those look like. Now this gentleman, very difficult to see in this lighting, being that he is primed black. So I'll get as close as I can without being obnoxious. This is the leader, really, of the Death Guard. Arguably the main leader. He was once a space marine, one of the heroes of the Empire of Man, 10,000 years before the current time period in the game. And he has fallen to the corruption of Nurgle, and is now Typhus of the Death Guard. Very powerful, very interesting model, and he works hand in hand in many ways with the poxwalkers. He bolsters their power and makes them a much more formidable force, even though they're basically expendable, which is why I have so many of them in my army. I believe that this model is called a Biologus Putrefier. Sort of has potions on these racks that extend from the back of his armor. Now these potions, I believe, are kind of his special abilities in combat. So it's a very interesting model. He seems to come with an enormous, well, a steaming potion bottle in one hand, and an enormous syringe gun in the other. So that's fun. These last three I will put here together. They are all a special type of unit. Actually, 3 special types of units. But I'm sorry to say that without the rules in the rule book for the Death Guard, I don't have much of an idea of exactly what they are. Excuse me. I believe this is called a Lord of Contagion. Or maybe that's this striking fellow. I'm not entirely certain. But he comes with a big, scary bell. Actually, several bells. Seems to be a theme and motif amongst the followers of Nurgle. I have read many of the works, the novels of Warhammer 40,000, which explains a lot of the lore behind these armies and these characters. Unfortunately, I have not read much about Nurgle, and I'm not certain as to why the bells are such an important and distinctive motif. Finally, this is called a malignant plague caster. Malignant. Sort of an odd word to repeat, but it has some very nice consonant sounds. Malignant. So this is my Death Guard army as it stands now, including the Plague Burst Crawler, the Mephitic Blight Hauler, the Fetid Bloat Drone, all of the Poxwalkers, Typhus, the Malignant Plague Caster, who I believe is some sort of a powerful psychic in battle. Also including the Plague Marines, and the other two, whom I cannot tell apart, unfortunately, due to my lack of knowledge of the rules of the Death Guard specifically. This fellow that I was talking about is actually what's called a knight. As in, you know, a knight on horseback, I suppose. And he is not one of the Death Guard. He just happens to be on my table because I'm currently painting him. So this is my Death Guard army. I hope that you enjoyed it. I can definitely say that any other videos that I post may or may not be Warhammer or Warhammer 40,000 themed. I have been very interested in ASMR for many years. I first found out my triggers when I was in 2nd grade, many years ago. My teacher spoke just so softly with perfect diction, great emphasis on consonant sounds, and I loved it. It took me until about 2010 or 2011 to discover ASMR as we know it today. And back then it was just known as the Whisper community. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I apologize for the quality. I will probably post a few and try to find a way to, I suppose, see if anyone is interested in viewing these. And then if that is the case, I could probably find some better equipment and see what I can come up with. I have no shortage of content that I can promise. It's just seeing if I can get anyone to be interested in the videos. Yeah, so now I'm sort of rambling off. I would say that me off topic is trouble sometimes. So I'll try to steer clear of that as much as I can. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please feel free to subscribe, like the video, and sign up for notifications. I plan to make many more, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you. Goodbye.